So we have surpassed 300 days now since the last general Nintendo Direct. Yes, we had a mini Direct a few months ago, but the last general one was back in September of 2019. With very little to look forward to on the horizon, yes, we have Paper Mario Origami King coming out in a couple weeks, but nothing really confirmed past that. Nintendo fans are definitely salivating once again for some news, some games to look forward to in that, especially as we get closer to the end of the year. The holidays, people want to know, what are the big games going to be? Many desperately checking the Nintendo Twitter feeds and that, right? Waiting for what many believe is the inevitable announcement of a major Nintendo Direct. Well, here's the thing. Those Nintendo Directs, they could be going away. In a recent interview, Nintendo President Furukawa said the following in regards to the future of Nintendo Directs. Quote, "We feel Nintendo Directs are an incredibly effective way to present information directly to our customers in a very straightforward way. Inversely, times change and so does the most effective way to promote products. So there is a chance that a new, better way to present this information comes about. So we always like to examine all of the possible ways to communicate this information to customers." While this statement certainly is not a cancellation by any means, it definitely looks as though they're looking into new forms, new structures perhaps, of conveying information. And when you look at the way they've been doing things lately, even the recent presentations they've had that were still very Direct-esque, weren't actually called Directs. Pokemon had those episodes of Pokemon Presents, which were pretty much the same style as we've seen from Pokemon Directs in the past, making a bunch of specific Pokemon IP announcements, but it had a different name. Similarly, Smash Brothers as well. The reveals for the new characters in that have been called Sakurai Presents rather than Smash Brothers Directs. So maybe like in this arena, you've got basically the same thing, but maybe when they want to do more game-specific or IP-specific presentations, they want to categorize them differently and have them labeled as Presents rather than Directs. And maybe they'll just have the Nintendo Direct name used for the more big showcases where they talk about various different games as well as IPs that are coming to Nintendo systems. In this situation, you could just be seeing a name change, while basically getting the same type of video presentations. Though if you look at some of the other announcements we've gotten lately, they've also been a bit different. Granted, I'd only be talking about one major one, because we haven't gotten many major announcements lately, but Paper Mario the Origami King, right, was just a random drop out of nowhere. They just posted the trailer one morning and were like, yeah, the game's coming out in a couple months, get hyped. Many were confused coming off again that more recent Direct Mini, as that one felt pretty disappointing to many people, at least to me, because we were still coming even back then off of a long drought of no Nintendo Direct. So it kind of sucked with that one not having any major first-party announcements. Most of the big stuff in it was just ports of older games, and it seemed like with the Origami King coming out just a couple months after its announcement, it could have easily been used to close out that previous Nintendo Direct as the huge one last thing type deal, but they decided to hold off on it. Which I'm kind of in this camp as well. On the one hand, I think it's cool having big announcements drop out of the blue, but I don't like it when the shows you hype up feel lacking, and I don't think having the former is worth causing the latter. Now, one thing everyone has to keep in mind, as has been the case for many months now, about any changes they do conveying this information in that, as well as looking into other delivery methods, is the whole COVID situation. Certainly still a significant problem worldwide, and as a result, I think many companies are looking into not just how to better operate during these times, but also make themselves better prepared if something like this were to happen again. I will say, I do think Directs are pretty good for this type of situation where people can't meet in person. It's one of those things, I disagree with a lot of people who are like, oh, they can't put a Direct together because we have COVID. Like, I totally see the big shows like E3, we can't do that, but to have devs essentially send in a bunch of game clips, have someone make some transitions and someone else do a narration to bring it all together, isn't that hard in my opinion, and definitely something that can be done with relative ease without people having to do anything in person. Again, we've gotten those recent presentations of Smash and Pokemon. The Pokemon, they did 2 within 1 week, featuring multiple games from multiple studios throughout, so it's not like they can't do this stuff. I more so, as I've said in the past, think the problem with doing a big direct right now is the uncertainty in terms of COVID. You know, our game's going to be on track in that. Do you want to announce stuff that could be getting delayed? That's where I see the issue being. Not so much that you can't put something like this together, as others have been doing. It's more so, do you want to put something like that together if things feel uncertain? Personally, going forward, I still think that's the main issue. If we continue to see more random announcements in that, specifically close to a game's release, is with still a sizable amount of uncertainty going around. They may be wanting to keep things close to the vest until they can be more sure about the release. Still though, I get where many are coming from, where, you know, you're looking at what Sony and Microsoft, other third parties are doing. These big consoles are coming, all these game announcements that are confirmed right now for holiday 2020. That excuse does only go so far if you got blockbusters dropping all over the place on other platforms. But yeah, myself, I think getting rid of directs would be insane. I don't think anything builds hype quite like these presentations. I think that's why both Sony and Microsoft have been desperately trying to copy the format in recent years. And with how streamlined they are, I find it hard to really see how they could be improved as a delivery system for game news. Like, they already cut out all the fluff we see in the typical conference type environment. I will say, I like what Nintendo did with the big unveiling of the Switch, as that was more of a regular conference type presentation, and for something like that, something as massive as a new hardware reveal, I think it makes total sense. Even coming off the reveal of the PlayStation 5, which was actually done more like a direct, I feel like while it certainly did very well, people are very excited for the PlayStation 5, I think it would have had even more impact if they did give it like a big conference type reveal. Once more, with the COVID stuff going on, a conference isn't exactly possible right now, but I'm just saying, watching the PlayStation 5 reveal did feel kind of lackluster compared to past console reveals I'd seen. And I think that partly has to do with not having all the pomp and circumstance that usually go into the big announcements like that. But for your typical game reviews, etc., I just feel like directs are the best way to do things. Now again, this quote that's going around doesn't mean they're looking to be done with them anytime soon, but I do think it's interesting given the way they've been handling things lately. And I'm sure once more, everyone, all gaming companies, are looking for ways to do things more efficiently these days. And I'd also like to slip in, if they were to go a different route, while I can't really think of how they would improve things, we'd have to keep in mind that there were many who thought Nintendo was insane when they first started going the direct route, forgoing the big conference style for shows like E3. Some even saying it was a sign that the company was, like, dying. And here we are all these years later, and everyone's trying to copy them. So even if they did try to do something different, as much as I love Nintendo Directs, I wouldn't count it out right away. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the possibility of a shakeup with the way Nintendo presents information in the comments. Do you think there's any possibility of Nintendo dropping Directs? And what would you like to see instead? Even going off of what we've seen lately, would you like to see more stealth announcements like Paper Mario? Or maybe more in-depth game-specific things like we see with Pokemon, Smash, etc.? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Nintendo potentially looking into alternatives to Nintendo Directs. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter at JohnnyZakari. And join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.